Darkness fell upon the quiet town of Enfield, casting long shadows and an eerie stillness that seemed to whisper of things unseen. At 284 Green Street, Enfield, England, the year was 1977. What was once an ordinary home soon became the epicenter of extraordinary events. An evil force, long dormant, had awakened. The Hodgson family, unsuspecting and unprepared, would soon find themselves at the mercy of this malevolent presence. Their lives, once filled with the mundane routines of daily existence, were about to be turned upside down. This wasn't just a haunting, it was a siege. The family was trapped in their own home, besieged by forces they couldn't understand or escape from. An unseen entity, hungry for chaos and fear, made its presence known in the most terrifying ways. The walls would whisper secrets of the past, and objects would defy gravity, flying across rooms with violent force. Fear became a constant companion for the Hodgsons. Every creak, every shadow, every unexplained noise sent shivers down their spines. The Enfield Poltergeist had made its grand entrance, and it was here to stay. The house, a seemingly nondescript terrace, became a battleground between the living and the supernatural. The air was thick with tension and dread. A malevolent force, unseen but deeply felt, toyed with the family. Strange noises echoed through the halls, a constant reminder of the entity's presence. Objects moved on their own, as if guided by invisible hands. Chairs would slide across the floor, and toys would levitate, defying all logic and reason. The Hodgson children, vulnerable and innocent, were the primary targets of this supernatural torment. Their nights were filled with nightmares, and their days with an unshakable sense of dread. Their mother, Peggy, fought desperately to protect them. She was their shield against the unknown, but even her maternal instincts were no match for the relentless force that plagued their home. This was a force beyond human control, beyond comprehension. It was as if the very fabric of reality had been torn, allowing something dark and sinister to seep through. This story, etched in the annals of paranormal history, is not for the faint of heart. It is a tale of terror that has left an indelible mark on all who have heard it. It's a tale of a family tormented by forces beyond their understanding, and of the brave investigators who dared to confront the unknown. These investigators, armed with little more than their wits and a few rudimentary tools, stepped into the heart of darkness. The Enfield Poltergeist remains one of the most documented and disturbing hauntings ever recorded. The evidence collected during this time is both compelling and chilling, offering a glimpse into a world that defies explanation. The truth is more terrifying than fiction. The events that unfolded at 284 Green Street are a stark reminder that sometimes the things that go bump in the night are all too real. Prepare yourself for a journey into the heart of one of the most harrowing hauntings in history. If you want to hear more chilling tales like this, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Hit the bell icon to stay updated with our latest videos. Join us as we explore the unknown.
I was so scared. I remember the feeling vividly, as if it happened just yesterday. The air was thick with an unexplainable tension, and every creak of the floorboards sent shivers down my spine. It was as if the house itself was alive, watching us, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Everything around me just started moving on its own. Chairs slid across the floor, books flew off the shelves, and the lights flickered ominously. It was like being in a horror movie. But this was real life. There was no escape, no waking up from this nightmare. It felt like I was trapped in a nightmare. Every corner of the house held a new terror, and there was no place to hide. Narrator: imagine, you're 11 years old. Your bed shakes violently. You can't sleep. You're scared. The darkness becomes your enemy, and every shadow seems to harbor a sinister presence. The once familiar and safe environment of your home turns into a battleground of fear and uncertainty. This was Janet Hodgson's reality, a young girl thrust into a world of the supernatural with no understanding of why it was happening to her. Her innocence was shattered, replaced by a constant state of dread. The youngest daughter, she became the epicenter of the haunting. Furniture moved around her. It was as if an invisible hand was orchestrating a macabre dance, with Janet at the center. The walls seemed to close in, and the air grew colder with each passing day. Disembodied voices whispered her name. They were soft at first, almost gentle, but soon they grew louder, more insistent. It was as if the spirits were trying to communicate, to reach out from the other side, but their messages were filled with malice and intent to harm. She was levitated in the air, helpless against unseen forces. The sensation of being lifted off the ground with no control over her own body was terrifying. It was a clear display of the entity's power, a reminder that they were at its mercy.
Her brother, Billy, also experienced the entity's wrath. He was not spared from the horrors that plagued their home. The entity seemed to take pleasure in tormenting the entire family, leaving no one untouched. Scratches appeared on his body. They were deep and painful, as if made by invisible claws. The wounds would appear out of nowhere, leaving Billy in constant pain and fear. He was thrown from his bed. The force was so strong that it was as if an unseen hand had grabbed him and hurled him across the room. The impact left him bruised and shaken, a stark reminder of the entity's strength. The children's fear was palpable. It hung in the air like a thick fog, suffocating and inescapable. Their once joyful laughter was replaced by cries of terror, and their eyes were filled with a haunting emptiness. Their pleas for help, heartbreaking. They begged for the nightmare to end, for someone to save them from the horrors that had invaded their home. But their cries went unanswered, and the torment continued. Peggy, their mother, was at her wit's end. She had tried everything to protect her children, but nothing seemed to work. The entity was relentless, and her strength was waning. Desperation filled her eyes as she watched her children suffer. The paranormal activity escalated. It was as if the entity fed off their fear, growing stronger with each passing day. Toys flew across the room. They were once sources of joy and comfort, now turned into instruments of terror. The sight of them moving on their own was a chilling reminder of the entity's presence. Doors slammed shut with impossible force. The sound echoed through the house, a deafening reminder of the entity's power. It was as if the house itself was trying to trap them inside, to keep them from escaping. The entity was growing bolder, its power undeniable. It no longer hid in the shadows but made its presence known in the most terrifying ways. The Hodgson family was at its mercy, with no hope of escape. The Hodgson family, trapped in a nightmare, prayed for it to end. They clung to each other for comfort, but the fear was overwhelming. Each day brought new horrors, and the end seemed nowhere in sight. But the Enfield Poltergeist was just getting started. The true extent of its power was yet to be revealed, and the Hodgson family would soon face even greater terrors. Their ordeal was far from over, and the worst was yet to come. Imagine this. You're home alone. You hear a noise. It's faint at first, almost like a whisper carried by the wind. But then it grows louder, more insistent, like a heartbeat echoing through the empty halls. You turn off the lights to investigate. The darkness envelops you, making every shadow seem alive. Your heart races as you step cautiously down the hallway, each creak of the floorboards amplifying your fear. Then you see them, two glowing eyes peering at you from the darkness. They seem to float, disembodied, watching your every move. The air grows colder, and you can feel the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. That's what Peggy Hodgson saw. Her blood ran cold. She was paralyzed with fear, unable to look away from those haunting eyes. It was as if they were boring into her soul, revealing her deepest fears. Fear, primal and consuming, gripped her heart. It was a fear unlike any she had ever known, a fear that seemed to come from the very depths of her being. She could feel it in her bones, in her very essence. This was not a figment of her imagination. This was not a trick of the light or a product of her mind playing games. This was real, tangible, and terrifying. This was all too real. She called the police. Her hands trembled as she dialed the number, her voice shaking as she tried to explain what she had seen. They came, skeptical but duty-bound. They witnessed it firsthand. The officers, trained to handle the most dangerous situations, found themselves facing something they could not explain. Furniture moving on its own, chairs sliding across the floor, tables tipping over without any visible force. It was as if the house itself was alive, reacting to their presence. A heavy chest of drawers sliding across the floor. The officers watched in disbelief, their rational minds struggling to comprehend what they were seeing. The police officers, shaken to their core, were left speechless. They had faced criminals, disasters, and emergencies, but nothing had prepared them for this. This was beyond their training, beyond their understanding. Word spread like wildfire. The story of the haunted house on Green Street became the talk of the town, drawing attention from far and wide. Journalists flocked to Green Street, eager for a glimpse of the supernatural. Cameras flashed and reporters jostled for the best angle, hoping to capture evidence of the paranormal. Skeptics scoffed, but the evidence was mounting. Photos, videos, and eyewitness accounts all pointed to something inexplicable happening at 284 Green Street. Something unexplained was happening at 284 Green Street. The house had become a focal point for those seeking answers, a place where the line between the known and the unknown blurred. Silence hung heavy in the air. Then a voice, raspy and chilling, broke the quiet. It was disembodied, emanating from thin air. It spoke through Janet, her young voice distorted, possessed by an unknown entity. His grip on Janet seemed absolute. Questions bombarded Bill. Who was he? Why was he tormenting this family? His answers were cryptic, unsettling. He spoke of darkness, of suffering, of an afterlife tethered to the house. The investigators listened, recorders running, capturing every chilling word. S4, I am Bill. I died in this house.
I speak of unimaginable pain and a thirst for revenge.
Bill's voice, a haunting melody of malice, sent shivers down their spines. The Enfield Poltergeist was no longer a series of unexplained events. It had a voice, an identity, a purpose.
I spoke to Bill as one would a troubled child. I tried to understand its motives, its pain. Narrator, enter Maurice Grosse. A paranormal investigator with the Society for Psychical Research, he was drawn to the case. He saw the fear in the Hodgson's eyes. He felt the entity's power. He was determined to help. Grosse, a kind and compassionate man, developed a strange rapport with the entity.
This approach, unorthodox and controversial, yielded results. Bill seemed to respond to Grosse's kindness. The paranormal activity at times subsided, but it was a delicate dance with darkness. The entity, unpredictable and volatile, could turn on a dime. Grosse knew the risks. He was walking a tightrope between this world and the next. Lyon Playfair, another paranormal investigator, joined the investigation. Initially skeptical, he approached the Enfield case with caution. But the evidence, overwhelming and undeniable, soon chipped away at his doubts. Playfair witnessed objects moving on their own, heard the disembodied voices, and saw the fear in the eyes of the Hodgson family.
I meticulously documented the events, taking notes, recording audio, and photographing anything unusual.
His skepticism gave way to a chilling realization. This was real. The Enfield Poltergeist was not a hoax. It was a force to be reckoned with. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more fascinating tales of the paranormal.